doing some quick videos on my book, and my book, which is my second book, Emotions: The Devil's Playground, and it's about burnout. And most people burn out in some area in their lives. Some people, it's to do with their profession and their vocation. Others, it's to do with their relationships and in around marriage, in family. Um, some of us, it's issues with our health, which cause us to burn out. The things like uh, just generally stressful, that we may be unfamiliar with certain things and facing challenges in those areas can just be physical things which can cause burnout. And is burnout bad? Well, it is bad and good. Burnout is good and bad. Um, Usually, when we are burning out, it's usually a sign that we need to actually change something. It's kind of our bodies, our minds, and our emotions are telling us that we need to make changes. And so, the only way we can do that is to recognize that we are burnt out and recognize that there are certain causes and things that in our lives that may have caused the burnout in the first place. Um, One of the important things is to understand is that when we embark on something like a marriage, having children, having family, um, taking on a profession, particularly the professions that work with people, such as social workers, first responders, clergy, ministers, religion, counsellors, psychologists, healthcare professionals like nurses and doctors, school teachers, all these people that are basically working day to day with lots of people or face to face with people. And those are the things that can really cause us inevitably to burn out. So whatever we embark on, we need to recognize that it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. And I've been in this business, I've been in the people business myself for 37 years now, particularly probably longer than that because I was in it before I was actually officially in it. So you could say 40 years I've been in the business of helping people. My role as first of all, a minister of religion, that's one. And secondly, as a clinical pastor and counsellor, that's two. And thirdly, as a social worker. And I've kind of worked in all those areas. I'm working in the area now of community and social work, supporting victims of domestic violence, working with people who are having problems with housing and finding threats because they may be losing their house um, due to economic situations or health issues, working with people who have mental illness, working with people and families to try and keep them together, and certainly doing quite a bit of marriage counselling, premarital counselling. So I've been in this business for a long time. Not only that, I've preaching regularly on Sunday in churches and in a church, and working in the pastoral care and clinical pastoral care area. So I know a little bit about working with people. And I know what it's like to feel like you're just totally exhausted, and you feel like, wow, I don't have much more to give, and that's often the case, particularly if you're working in the healthcare area. That's one of them. But I feel for nurses who do an absolutely outstanding job. Anybody who's a nurse needs a medal. They are incredible. Doctors also amazing and do incredible work. They work really hard, actually, doctors, to believe it or not, and so do nurses, and they probably should be paid a lot more than what they're getting. And then you've got people like school teachers. Who doesn't admire school teachers? I think school teachers are absolutely outstanding. The work that they do, particularly with children and teenagers, and then you got in the area of first responders like the police force, policemen, firemen, paramedics, emergency services. All those people are certainly heroes in my eyes. And so this is what it's like working with people. And it's not the best. Excuse me, I've got to wipe my nose on the video. Anyway, that's all right. Okay, so what I'm saying is this book gives you some insight and ideas, and also some references, particularly if you are having burnout and you're suffering from that. You can get this book on Amazon. And it will be actually republished. It's going to be republished for a third time by a legitimate publisher. And this book is going to be actually translated into a number of different languages as well. So we're hoping to distribute this book worldwide. It's already being distributed in the United States and in Australia, and in England, Great Britain. The first chapter in this book is dealing with the issue of running the race. And of course, in Hebrews, it talks about running the race. This is a biblical Bible reference. Hebrews chapter 12, 1 to 2. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight of sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of God. So you can start well, you can start fast. I remember starting out in the ministry, and within 5 years of being in the ministry, I was burnt out because you start with all this energy and all this excitement and all the things that you want to achieve and all the aspirations you have and the vision that you have, and it doesn't quite kind of work out the way you expect it's going to work out. Things actually go wrong. You end up doing a lot of problem solving because you're in leadership, and leaders problem solve, and that's what they do. A leader is a problem solver, a real leader. It's a pity some of our politicians didn't catch on to that one. That actually leadership is problem solving, and unless we can solve the problem of housing, or the problem of finance, or the problem of defence, or the problem of whatever, social services or anything else, you're not a leader. So I don't see many in our political world that are actually leaders on either side of politics. So anyway, getting off that. Problem solving is certainly something that takes up a lot of our time. And I mean, if we are social workers, if we're nurses, health workers, if we're first responders, if we even I didn't mention the defence force, because I've done a lot of work with ex-servicemen and particularly with defence, with soldiers and so forth in the past in clinical counselling, who are burnt out. Because sometimes you can't solve the problems, and sometimes it's not easy to solve problems. So that takes its toll upon us emotionally. And it's the area of the emotions that really causes the burnout. And that's what this book is all about. This book is about the area of the emotions, the devil's playground. And what are some of the things that can trip us up, and I'll mention these again as we go on, can be things like inability to solve problems, number one. Number two, offense. We can be offended. Number three, bad time management. The book deals with that, poor time management. The book also deals with unresolved issues in ourselves and our inner child, personality, and not recognizing our personality strengths and weaknesses. And certainly having one of them is to do with also our mindset or patterns of thinking, and the way we think and the way we view things, and the lens that we operate through to view things. Those are the things that can stop us from running the race, running the marathon. And it is a marathon. And we've got to understand something here, that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you take it as a sprint, then you're going to be very much worn out very quickly. However, if you see it as a race of endurance, a race that is a marathon, it's a lifetime activity. It could even be just within a marriage. A marriage is not a sprint. A marriage is a marathon, and it's a lifetime thing. And so it has to be worked with, has to be worked at, and also it cannot be ruled by emotions, cannot be just governed by emotions. And a lot of our responses are emotional. We become defensive, we become offended, we become disheartened, and especially if we can't solve problems. And so then we start to burn out. So those are the things that can wear us out. And it's not just physical, it's spiritual, and it's also mental, but more than anything else, it's emotional. And most of the burnout is in the area of the emotions. It's to do with our levels of emotional maturity, which we talk about in this book. It's to do with the whole area of our emotions and the way that we respond to things emotionally, the way we feel, and letting our feelings and how we govern, and allowing our feelings to take over. Of course, there is the mental aspect as well. There's the mental side of it, which is, as I said before, the patterns of thinking. The spiritual side is not necessarily affected by burnout, because our spirits don't necessarily burn out, but they do become critical. The spirit can become critical when you have a critical spirit. And one of the worst things is criticism of ourselves. And we can start to bag ourselves out, and that's to do with all our self-talk and the way we talk within ourselves and the way we speak within ourselves, which comes also from the heart or from the spirit and leaks into the emotions and starts to wear us out. So, like I said, and I'll finish on this point, when we start to burn out and when we feel like we're just burnt out, that's when we need to make changes. We need to make some significant changes, and we might need to go on a leave for a while, or we might need to and assess things that way. But we need to even get someone in, or someone to help us and to work with us, someone we trust, of course, someone we can confide in, someone we can share our intimate secrets with. It's not going to be blasted all over the internet or somewhere else. It's not going to be gossiped about. Someone we can trust and someone we can rely on to support us and to help us be able to see things from an external perspective rather than an internal perspective. So that's when we are burnt out, we need to realize that changes do need to be made. And then once we make those changes, then we can manage things a lot better. But what I'm saying is that the main change is in the area of the emotions, and dealing with offenses, dealing with hurt, dealing with pain, dealing with disappointment, and dealing with problem solving. So those are the things that we will be looking at as we go through these videos. And I hope they're helpful for you. I hope you can pick up on them, and we'll do some more in the coming days. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.